Romeo and Juliet, Juliet was a very young girl, so I think many people jump to the conclusion that Italian Renaissance men married, or at least sought after, very young girls themselves. And I think this misconception is further added to by the fact that many royals at the time married when they were essentially children. But this simply isn't true for the majority of Europe at that time. Shakespeare, who I think married an 18-year-old himself, which was pretty shocking at the time, was trying to make a moral point. Plus, at the time, the concept of the four humours was still prevalent, and the English audiences believed that the Italians were more passionate and married young. So Shakespeare was trying to shock English audiences, because people at that time, if you ignore the royals, married at least in their 20s and at very similar ages as to what people do. Now, the reasons the royals married so young is because people hoped to secure wealth and succession. But for the majority of Europeans, if you look at marriage certificates at that time, they married during, say in England, during the Tudor and Stuart period, at least in their 20s, and the average tends to, depending on which source you read, balance out around 24 or 25. Now, of course, this changes from region to region. Like in rural parts of northern England, they married younger, and in northern Scotland, where the clan system was still prevalent, they married younger too. And in cities like Florence, 21 was seen sort of nearly past marriageable age, but by and large, people married when they were adults. There were very few children getting married. Now, I should add that yes, if countries did have an age of consent, it was usually pretty low. But 20s was, by most scientists, considered the best time to have children, and anybody getting married younger than that was seen as a little bit shocking. But what's interesting is a historian named Hajnal has managed to divide Europe, sort of from St. Petersburg through Poland, a bit of Central Europe, and through the middle of Italy. Anything west of that line, people married for centuries over the age of 23 on average, and anything east of that line, they married below that. Now, there's a couple reasons for this. Firstly, in Western Europe, the idea of a consensual marriage from very early on in the medieval period became important because the Christians at the time saw marriage as a blessing from God. But also Frankish reforms and church reforms as well helped destroy the clans of Europe and extended families, and the church reforms stopped things like polygamy, adoption, and remarriage. So this was the beginning of the nuclear family, so to speak. Plus, men were expected to at least be able to support their family before getting married, so of course they had to wait until they had enough resources, and this would usually be in their mid to late 20s. Now, there are some other potential causes behind this that I'm skipping, but by and large, men married women. Men married a little bit older than women, but if you look at the records, it was usually only 2 or 3 years older. So Juliet's age, or say, I keep hearing people say, oh, Pocahontas was a young girl when she first met John Smith. Well, this wasn't normal at the time, at least in Western Europe.